Going through this process in the judicial system, you just have to be thankful for small kind of victories.
Tonight, the family of a Six Nations man speaks after his killer is sentenced.
They want to see these successes translate back to their families and to their communities.
Plus, Indigenous youth not feeling the full effect of reconciliation, according to one study.
For me, as a representative of the King, my role is to help understand.
And the Governor General touches down in Manitoba. Good evening, Tansi Aneen. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. A former Catholic priest and convicted pedophile is facing new charges of sexually assaulting children in Nunavut. 76-year-old Eric DeJager was arrested today by police in Kingston, Ontario, where he was living. The former priest from Belgium is now charged with 8 counts of historical sexual assault. The new charges come as he was out on statutory release after a 2015 conviction on 24 counts of sex crimes against Inuit youth. Those convictions are related to his time as a parish priest in Iqaluit between 1978 and 1982. The RCMP release says DeJager is being brought back to Iqaluit to appear before the Nunavut Court of Justice. Family and friends of a Six Nations man, Jonathan Stiers, have been hoping to see justice for 7 years. This week, the man who shot Stiers was sentenced to 8 years in prison. APTN's Annette Francis sat down with Mr. Stiers' partner to share their story and how she's been coping through it all.
Family and friends of Jonathan Stiers emerged from the Hamilton court with a small feeling of relief. It's something Stiers' partner, Lindsay Hill, has been hoping to hear for years.
Like going through this process in the judicial system, you just have to be thankful for small kind of victories. So I'm thankful that it wasn't 4 years.
The decision comes 7 years after Stiers was shot and killed outside Cahill's home in February 2016. Cahill shot him twice with a shotgun as he was breaking into Cahill's pickup truck. The sentence brings little comfort.
I was honestly surprised with 8. I was expecting 4. I don't know. It's hard to have any expectations though, really.
Yeah, I know, except disappointment.
The tragic death left Hill to raise their 2 babies on her own.
And then this one was actually like days before he was killed. Like, I think it might have been like 2 nights.
Hill and Stiers grew up together. They went to school in Six Nations. But it wasn't until they were in their 20s that their relationship began. She says he was funny, laid back, and a loyal partner and father who looked forward to raising their babies together.
He wanted that like type of relationship. I think he kind of like the whole like unconditional love of it type of thing. I think that was something that he really wanted in his life, and I feel like
it's been a rough 7 years for Hill, who's had to straddle court dates and raise their girls. There's been no time to really grieve and heal. She says John would be proud of his girls.
I mean, I hope that he would say that I'm doing a good job with the girls. And there are certain things like I just try to do. Like I remember him always talking about like his birthday, like, and how he wanted to have a really good birthday for like the girls and stuff. So I still like those type of the things are the things that I guess I can do to kind of try and, you know, have his influence there.
According to Hill, support from the community and friends like Tom Thomas have helped her to get through some of the tough times.
Standing beside Linz throughout this whole time, our relationship has gotten closer and brought us together. And, you know, we sit here and cry together, or sit here and argue and get mad, and, you know, try to heal and deal with all the pain that's come along with these court proceedings, and not just dealing with that, but the actual loss. It almost gets lost in it because you're so focused on trying to just get in that frame of mind of sitting there in court.
Hill says she's looking forward to finding peace eventually, but she says that won't happen until she knows the outcome of Cahill's appeal. Anna Francis, APTN National News, Six Nations.
Manitoba RCMP are on the hunt for a man wanted in connection to a homicide yesterday on Sandy Bay Ojibwe First Nation, about 130 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. RCMP say 26-year-old Sean Spence is considered armed and dangerous. If seen, RCMP say do not approach Spence and call police immediately. Spence resides on Sandy Bay Ojibwe First Nation and is known to frequent Ebb and Flow First Nation. A rally in Halifax is calling for Mi'kmaq-led inquiry to look into the cases of two people who died in the corrections systems within a few months of one another. Angel Moore reports.
Sarah Rose Denny and Peter Paul, both of the Eskizoni First Nation, died while in custody of the Nova Scotia Correctional Centres. Sarah's mother, Kathy Denny, is demanding accountability.
And I hope somebody hears and it comes to the table and they talk about what needs to be done.
Karen Pictou is the executive director of the Nova Scotia Native Women's Association. She says the federal government needs to act.
Canada, do better, because right now our current Prime Minister is continuing the genocide if he does not act. Thank you.
Sarah Rose Denny, 36 years old, and a mother of two, was in custody at the Central Nova Scotia Correctional Facility. She died from complications from pneumonia on March 26 this year. Denny's mother hopes awareness brings change.
I'm so glad everybody showed up and gave us support, and I hope the rest of the province does come together and give us support and give us an inquiry as to why this is happening in these facilities in Nova Scotia.
Peter Paul, 27 years old, died in hospital on January 28, 2023. He had been found unresponsive at the Cape Breton Correctional Facility after a suicide. Gilbert Paul, Peter's brother, says he was informed by media that an internal investigation determined no criminal findings.
I'm upset with Correction Services Canada and their team, who continues to be very vague about what happened with Peter and why it happened and how it happened.
Martha Martin, a tireless advocate, traveled from New Brunswick to offer support.
The experience of losing a child in custody or, at the hands of law enforcement is real, and it's a tough road to go down.
Martin's daughter, Chantel Moore, was 26 years old, mother of one, was fatally shot by an Edmundston police officer during a wellness check in June 2020. 6 months later, Martha's son, Mike Martin, was 23 years old. He died by suicide while in custody in Surrey, British Columbia. Martin says,
the lack of empathy that we're feeling from the police force, from the correctional facilities, there's something that needs to be changed.
The family of Skylar Sapir from the Nugudtuk First Nation, New Brunswick, located about 600 kilometers northwest of Halifax, walked to fight for justice. Skylar was 28 years old and a father of two, died from COVID 9 days before he was scheduled to be released from the St. John Regional Correctional Centre. A coroner's inquest into Skylar's death made 40 recommendations. Skylar's sister, Rayanne, told the crowd,
"So I'm going to be his voice, even if I have to stand up here and cry."
In Nova Scotia, when a person dies in custody, the investigation is internal and the findings are kept confidential. Paul says a public inquiry can prevent other deaths.
So it's very hard to get information right now, and but we retained a lawyer, and we wrote to the Justice Minister, the Attorney General, Premier Tim Houston, we also wrote to him as well, and we are calling for a Mi'kmaq-led fatality inquiry.
The Denny and Paul family have legal representation and requested a meeting with Brad Johns, the Nova Scotia Attorney General and Minister of Justice, to discuss a Mi'kmaq-led fatality inquiry into the deaths in custody of Sarah Rose Denny and Peter Paul. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
Nova Scotia's Department of Justice declined an interview request but sent a statement saying that deaths related to natural causes constitute personal health information and all major incidents are subject to review. All right, we have to step aside for a moment, but first, here's Danielle Parody with a look at how the wildfires are affecting residents of a flying community.
Fort Chippewan's nearly 1,000 residents were evacuated 9 days ago. The fly-in community rushed to get people out. The fire is not yet under control. Some community members stayed behind in Fort McMurray. Others wait to go home.
When you're given 3 hours to pack a bag and you walk around your house and say, what am I going to take? You know, you really don't have time to break down or anything, you know. I had 2 dogs and a grandson to worry about.
Coming tomorrow on APTN National News.
Welcome back to APTN National News. More than 6,500 First Nations people remain evacuated from their communities due to wildfires burning across the country. On Wednesday in Ottawa, the Trudeau government gave an update on the wildfire situation. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canadians from coast to coast are being affected by poor air quality due to the fires.
I want to recognize the air quality statements that have been issued by Environment Canada because of wildfire smoke. People across the country are being affected. We're seeing vulnerable people at risk, outdoor events cancelled, kids having to be kept inside at recess.
Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu says this includes a number of First Nations people who have had to be evacuated due to smoky conditions.
People are working incredibly hard to make sure that people are moved to safety, not just from the effects of the fire itself, but certainly the incredible health risk of being exposed to the degree of smoke that folks are facing in communities. Some communities are evacuating as a result of the incredible health risks to people that are already vulnerable.
The Algonquins of Barrier Lake is one of 13 First Nations in the country that has had to be evacuated because of the fires. Chief Casey Ratt says about 100 people from the community in Western Quebec have left because of poor air quality.
The air quality in our community is very bad at the moment. And our we have evacuated members on a Sunday and Monday to nearby towns, Maniwaki, Gatineau, and Maniwaki and Gatineau. So we're waiting on, some type of break in the air quality so we can start moving our community back home.
Defense Minister Anita Anand also gave an update on the military efforts to aid those affected by the wildfires. She says about 130 soldiers are on the ground in Alberta helping the community of Fort Chipewyan.
On May 30th, they helped to evacuate more than 100 residents from Fort Chipewyan, which is only accessible by plane or boat during the summer. And on June 1st, 5 civilian fire trucks were transported to Fort Chipewyan by CC-130J Hercules aircraft to assist with wildfire response efforts.
As of Wednesday, Indigenous Services says 17 First Nations communities in Canada are being affected by the fires. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The city of Iqaluit is making plans to keep its water supply flowing and safe. APTN's Trevor Wright has more.
City of Iqaluit is hosting public consultation for its long-term water supply solutions this week. This includes the one here behind me at Abe Oakpick Hall, a sub-community of Iqaluit about 5 kilometers southeast of the main city. The issue of Iqaluit's troubled water supply has been one on the minds of residents for years now. The city has been pumping water from Kikitalik Lake, either directly or indirectly through the Apex River for about 4 to 5 years now. The budget for the long-term water project is over $214 million, entirely funded through the Federal Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund. The goals for the long-term water project include 1, replacing and modernized piped infrastructure within the city, 2, developing a new long-term water source for the city, as well as building the infrastructure to that new water source, and 3, constructing a new reservoir to ensure an adequate future water supply solution. According to city officials, this is the first of such public information sessions looking for feedback on the long-term water project, and we'll be expecting further feedback from the community later this week. Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Governor General Mary Simon spent a whirlwind day in Winnipeg, Manitoba today, where anti-colonial sentiment recently made headlines. The Governor General made her first official stop of the day at Government House to meet with Lieutenant Governor Anita Neville. Then it was on to the legislature, where she sat down with Premier Heather Stephenson before meeting with Indigenous leaders. Just steps away from the recently repaired, reinstalled, and re-vandalized statue of Queen Elizabeth, a symbol of colonization that has divided communities for decades. When asked about the vandalism, the Governor General had this to say.
For me, as a representative of the King, my role is to help understand what's going on. So in a way, I can't say whether it's right or wrong. It's right for the people maybe that are doing it, but it's wrong for the people that want the history to continue as it was.
All right, it's that time to step aside one final time here on the show. Photo of the day and weather are next. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. From the Gitxsan Nation, Clarence Jones sent us this photo of some clouds forming a halo over the mountains. It's a rather majestic sight to see there. Thanks so much for sharing that one, Clarence. If you have a photo to share, you can send that photo to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. All right, now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. We start on the East Coast, 17 in St. John's and 17 in Halifax. 4 degrees in Cartwright and 8 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay. 13 in Quebec City and 18 in Montreal. 20 degrees in Toronto and smoke in the air with 22 in Sarnia. 21 in Wawa and 22 in Thunder Bay. 19 degrees in Churchill and sun and 24 in Thompson. 26 degrees and some showers in Barons River and 25 in showers in Winnipeg. 30 degrees in Yorkton and 30 in Saskatoon. Clear and 23 in Buffalo Narrows and 20 degrees in Uranium City. As we keep making our way west, 23 in Fort Chipewyan and 29 in Peace River. Clear and 29 in Edmonton and some showers in 29 in Calgary. 28 degrees in Campbell River and 29 in Bella Coola. 16 degrees in Sandspit and 27 in Fort Nelson. 20 degrees in Whitehorse and 18 in Rock River. Norman Wells is clear in 24 and 22 in clear in Fort Simpson. 18 degrees in Fort McPherson and 18 in Colville Lake. Cambridge Bay is looking at 4 degrees and 5 degrees in Chesterfield. 2 degrees in Arctic Bay and 8 degrees in Iqaluit. A national event to create and foster economic development opportunities for Indigenous business owners gathered in Vancouver earlier this week. With more on the story, here's APTN's Tina House.
We're here at the 2023 Indigenous Partnerships Success Showcase. Joining me today is Hereditary Chief Ian Campbell. Ian Campbell, tell us about this event and what's happening here right now.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. Well, we're here at the Vancouver Convention Centre in the shared territories of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, really to showcase the many amazing stories across our country of Indigenous partnerships, cross-sectorial, generations of effort to see a lot of our economic reconciliation come to fruition, taking our rightful place in our territories in a variety of areas. So it's really about celebrating those stories.
It's absolutely incredible to see so many people that have traveled across the country to be here. Tell us about some of the highlights that we can expect over the next couple of days.
Well, I'm really happy on the response. You know, I think it's timely to hit that critical mass of removing ambiguity for Canadians on what reconciliation means. Certainly for Indigenous peoples, we know the impacts to our territories with resource extraction or, encumbrances within our territories. So what do we do about it? We need to come together and, it's a part of the truth and reconciliation to share our truth. But in doing that, forging partnerships and mobilizing our community members around procurement opportunities, entrepreneurialism, especially our young people. Having youth panels is really important to me to see the voice of our young people. We're not assimilated people, we simply adapt to our ever-changing environment. So having Wanique Horn-Miller here today was certainly a highlight for me, seeing champions like that have been out there creating visible presence to the world. Erasure's been very real for us. So this is about bringing people together from across the country and really just celebrating that we're still here and we're stronger than ever.
It's amazing to see how many corporations and companies have stepped up, and they're here today to forge new partnerships with Indigenous entrepreneurs and nations. What do you hope comes out of this conference at the end of the day?
Well, my hope for the conference is really that critical mass, to be in concert with other entities that are creating awareness around this area. I want to see the next 10, 15 years metrics to see our people mobilized in all facets of business, especially our young people. I know, our grandparents were systemically denied those opportunities. We couldn't own private land as Indigenous peoples while other Canadians enjoy generational wealth creation. We're now involved in major developments here in Vancouver. So I want to see our people plugged into these projects. Transformation is in every one of our stories, so looking at the ability to adapt, to not assimilate, but to utilize the best tools available to us. Really, that's the showcase of partnerships that I want to share.
Chief Ian Campbell, congratulations on a very successful event, and thank you so much. Always good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you in studio.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tina. Well, that's going to do it for this Wednesday edition of APTN National News. Our website, aptnnews.ca, has you covered if you happen to miss anything from tonight's show. For all of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Miigwech, Kinanaskmatan, and have a great night.